In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. The title of this video is Understanding AIDS from a Mosquito. I will show in this video how to understand, how to know the cause for AIDS and its cure from pondering upon the mosquito. Now, to explain this title, we need to ponder and reflect upon verse number 26 of chapter 2 of the Quran, which states, the translation is the following: Verily, Allah God is not ashamed to set forth a parable of a mosquito and what above it. And as for those who believe, they know that it is the truth from their Lord. But as for those who disbelieve, they say, what did Allah God intend by this parable? By it He misleads many, and many He guides thereby, and He misleads thereby only those who are rebellious towards Allah God. So here, brothers and sisters, Allah the Almighty gives us an example, a parable of a mosquito. And Allah gives many examples in the Quran. And the reason and the wisdom why Allah the Almighty gives these examples for people to ponder and reflect upon them and to learn from these examples. Here I will concentrate on the mosquito. So if we ponder upon the mosquito, we see that if the mosquito takes some blood from a person who has AIDS. Now the example is the following: if a mosquito takes blood from, sucks blood from a person who's infected with the AIDS virus, the fact is that the mosquito doesn't die. It does not die. So the fact, again, that if a mosquito sucks some blood, takes some quantity of blood from a person who has AIDS, the mosquito is unharmed. Now this needs further kind of thinking about this example. We need to ponder and reflect upon this fact and the example of the mosquito. So we see that the AIDS virus, it kills people by the thousands, but it doesn't harm this small creature, the mosquito. Some people regard the mosquito as the weakest of Allah God creation. So why is this? What is the explanation for this phenomenon? That the AIDS virus can kill thousands of people but doesn't harm this small mosquito. The only explanation for this is that Allah the Almighty designed the AIDS virus as a punishment for people who do unlawful sexual acts and they make them public, like adultery, incest, homosexuality. Now, this conclusion, the only conclusion that the mosquito is not harmed, but people are killed by this virus and they suffer a lot. Not only they die, but there is so much pain when a person has AIDS, is that Allah Almighty designed this AIDS virus as a result for people doing unlawful sexual acts and making it public, while in insects and animals, the relationship between a male and a female is what Allah Almighty intended it to be. It's pure, it's for a certain reason, and as thus Allah Almighty put certain mechanisms in the body of animals and insects to neutralize the AIDS virus, and it doesn't harm them at all. Because again, the insects and the animals, the relationship between a male and a female is what Allah Almighty intended it to be. But in the case of humans, they are going against the guidance of Allah Almighty, are doing unlawful sexual acts. So this is a punishment of Allah Almighty for doing such acts and making them public. And the reason that Allah Almighty gives this punishment so that people would realize that they are doing something wrong and come back to the path of Allah Almighty. And this is in perfect agreement with the teaching of Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, where in one of the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, he told us that if a nation, they did unlawful sexual acts and make them public, then Allah Almighty will put plagues and pains upon them which were unknown for the people they went before them. So here the teaching of Muhammad is that if a nation they did unlawful sexual acts and made them public, then Allah Almighty will put plagues and pains on them which are new plagues, new pains, and AIDS fits this exactly. It's a plague. It kills so many thousands of people, and it is a new kind of disease, a new pain. So we see from example mosquito, we know the cause of AIDS. It's specifically designed for humans as a result of their doing unlawful sexual acts and making them public. Now this is the cause for AIDS. Now what's the cure? The cure is very straightforward and simple. Stop doing unlawful sexual acts and go back to the teaching of the Quran, which puts rules for the relationship between a male and a female, between a man and a woman, and puts these rules in marriage and prohibits adultery, incest, homosexuality. So the Quran prohibits these unlawful sexual acts like adultery, incest, and homosexuality. So the cure is going back to what Allah Almighty intended for a relationship between a male and a female in marriage. And if you think about it more and more, the animals, they do this kind of interaction between a male and a female how Allah intended it to be, and as thus they don't have any problems with AIDS. So if humans, they go back to the path of Allah Almighty and they follow the teaching of the Quran and follow the rules that Allah Almighty laid down for the interaction and the relationship between a male and a female, then Allah Almighty will remove this virus and remove this plague upon people. So we see, brothers and sisters, how from the example of a mosquito we can derive so much knowledge. And these examples in the Quran, if you think about them more and more, we can learn so much knowledge from them. And to know more details about this topic, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zaidquran@yahoo.com. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.